share his thoughts later. We have three speakers tonight. We have Allison Cohen, who's Chief Advisor of Constituent Services for District 10, Councilman Mike Gallagher's office. That's Allison, okay.
Yeah, very nice.
And we have Alfonso Castillo. He's the Assistant District Manager with the Department of Solid Waste Management. Ray Castillo, and I don't know what your...
The District Manager.
District Manager. And then Brian Vasquez, who's the Solid Waste Route Supervisor, who checks on the alleys and the state of them and then makes a report. And so we're here today, we're all on the same team, guys. We all want to maintain our alleys, keep our alley trash pickup service. We want to work in collaboration with them. We want to know what we can do if there is some non-compliance, what we as a neighborhood can do to try to enforce that. But the city entities are there to help us out. So by bringing you all here today is for us to share information and to discuss some of the issues of concern that are facing us. One of the things I want to get through this and have it be most beneficial for everybody, I would request that a discussion format, in the sense that I would like you to hold your questions until after the person who has spoken. They're sharing information with us, and that may generate some other questions, but if we are always asking questions every minute or so, we won't get through the evening. The second thing is that please, you'll see on your table some 3x5 cards. Please feel free to write your questions down, or your recommendations, or your concerns, or whatever. And I'll collect them and make sure that these people get them so that we can address those issues at a later time. And the last thing, I ask that you be direct in your questions and be respectful for everyone in this room. Again, we're all working together, and so everyone has valid comments. We want to hear them. We want to give them a chance to say, you know, what they're doing, what their office does, what their jurisdiction is, and then go from there, okay? So I'm going to introduce Allison Cohen first. She will be speaking about alley improvement projects, because as you know, not all of our alleys are paved. Some of them are paved with asphalt, some are with concrete. You know, a lot of questions people have about why and when.
Thank you. Oh, hi everybody. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, good. I'm Allison Cohen. I do constituent services for Councilman Gallagher. That's District 10 right here in Terrell Heights, wonderful area, all the Northeast. I receive calls just about every week about an alley somewhere in District 10, in addition to streets and everything else that we deal with. And I try to work very closely with solid waste and transportation capital improvements, TCI, what used to be Public Works, in regards to maintenance of the alleys. We're working on doing more maintenance for our alleys in regards to paving, but also for interim maintenance too. So you got areas like I know Benham had with some low spots that have some bad drainage. You know, if we're not going to be getting to paving that anytime soon, we want to make sure we can come in and do some patchwork, make it better for the time being so everyone can get out there, put their stuff in the alley, have it collected by the garbage trucks, and we can move on and have a happy day. What I passed out to you guys is just a little information. This is something I share pretty frequently with neighborhoods that have alley collection. I call it Rally for Your Alley. Pretty simple, kind of fun. And I've seen a lot of great things come from, you know, just having a good conversation with your neighbors about the importance of alley maintenance. Alley maintenance isn't just a great thing so you can have a convenient garbage collection in the back of your home, but it is also something to think about for your quality of life. Having garbage collection behind your home is nice because you don't have to see these big, huge carts out in the front, but also in order to keep your alley maintained for that, you're allowing for access for law enforcement to make sure that criminals aren't hiding out in the backs of your alleys. We do have an issue with some homeless people that have been hanging out in an alley off Bryn Mawr lately. You know, those are things we don't want. So maintaining your alley, keeping things out of the way so you can have a clear, straight shots to see down the alley is very helpful for our law enforcement. Also, any of that extra tinder or debris that may contribute to fires jumping from property to property wouldn't be a very great thing either. We can have fire departments come down the alley, take care of your properties from the back. So making sure the access is available there is a good thing as well. We have had a lot of great alley pavings here in Terrell Heights. It's been really wonderful. Has anyone here have their alley paved? Yeah. All right, we've got a lot of good people here. We do have a lot of alleys coming up. We spend around between probably $100,000, $150,000 a year in alleys all over District 10 for repaving. So there are a lot here. You guys you see a lot of garbage collection alleys here in Terrell Heights, older neighborhood where that was built in the very beginning, and the city has made sure to accommodate that through the years, even as we do the automated system with the larger carts and the automated trucks. I know that right now we have some alleys underway that are being repaved, including, and I get these right to make sure they are, the ones between Harmon and Chevy Chase and Breeze and Harmon. From Kenilworth to Chevy Chase. Did I get those right? They know which ones are closed right now. I don't always know which ones are closed at the time.
Between Irvington and Larchmont,
Yeah.
in the 100 block.
Great.
Is under construction.
And we have some coming up for next year in fiscal year 2016 as well. This one will be the one between Devonshire and Breeze. The boundaries will be Greenwich to Kenilworth. And then we have a lot of alleys coming up in the year 2018 between Bryn Mawr and Wellesley, and that's the kind of a curvy alley over here, between Wellesley and Mount Calvary, Irvington and Devonshire, and the one between Emporia and Greenwich, which also acts not only as an alley collection, but we have a lot of homes there that have their driveways backing up, so that's their access point. Yes?
You mentioned a couple of alleys that are already paved with asphalt. Are those scheduled to be
Which ones?
replaced with concrete?
Which ones?
Bryn Mawr and Wellesley?
Between Bryn Mawr and Wellesley.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's
I
okay.
forgot the
That's okay,
rules.
that's,
Some of these I may mention, if they are asphalted, we're not only just doing repaving, we do sealant work. So these could possibly receive a sealant on top. It wouldn't be a repaving, it would be a sealant like we do for our streets. It's to maintain them. So if I did mention one that's in there, I would need to check back to see if in the notes it gives me whether or not it's a sealant. But we're doing preservation to make sure that they do last longer. Okay. And with every year, we like to hear back from neighborhoods. We always like to receive requests. If you call into 311, say, you know what, my alley, I received garbage collection in my alley. They're having a really hard time back there. It's real wavy, they've got a lot of bumps and potholes, and it's difficult for us to get our trash can out there. Put that request in. You can also call our office. You can call me to make that request. We can see how we can put it into the infrastructure maintenance program. That's all of our infrastructure programs, so alleys, sidewalks, streets, that's all lumped together and we divide it up.
What is your phone number?
Sure thing, it is 207 0999.
say it again, Allison.
207-0999. That's my number at the field office, and it's just right over at the Catholic Life Insurance Building. So I've come out and met with several people in regards to alleys. Mr. Benham, I've been over to his place. So not only do these great guys from Solid Waste come out and meet you to talk about your alley, but I will too. So if you guys have an issue, call me up and we can discuss it. Any other questions?
I don't know who would answer this, but, well, I'm right here on Bryn Mawr. They probably closed our alley 3 years ago. 5 years ago. It's been closed ever since. It's not any worse now than it was the 5 and 10 years before that they used it. So I don't quite understand. They did do half of it.
Is that half used for
No.
solid waste pickup?
Yes, yeah, the one that they paved is.
The one they
Well,
paid?
just that circle.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
all-
really
it's
all
not-
ours.
It is not used.
I bet one of these gentlemen over here can answer that.
Yes. That I can answer.
Wait on that.
I can answer the issue with that one. The reason that one was closed was, if you know where the alley kind of curves at the end of it, we had an issue where the truck was actually hitting against a low-hanging service wire. I mean, our truck was right there just hitting against it, and for fear that we might catch it and pull these wires down, or maybe even pull the telephone pole down, we closed it up.
Well, that's 5 years ago.
Like,
I mean,
about
but
3
someone
years
in
ago.
5 years solved the problem.
I made numerous calls to utility companies to try and get the wire raised up, and pretty much, I never got any response. I said, well, who do I need to speak to get it fixed? And it just kind of kept getting pushed on, and no one ever did anything about it. I think we finally recently, just recently, finally did get raised up, so, and now the only issue is now we just gotta work on getting the overgrown vegetation cut, and then we can have the alley service reopened. But like I said, it took them years for them just to get that issue raised up.
So where it turns on the end.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've seen that back, I guess that one big radio tower that's in the back, right behind that house.
Just let me add something to that also, is that, you know, through the years, I've been in the garbage business for about 35 years. Trucks are getting bigger also. That's one of the concerns we have also with your alleys. That's why sometimes we have to close some of the alleys for low-hanging wires so the trucks are a little bit higher. And like Brian says, we don't want to damage anybody's property, because in the past, we've had caught some wire and just toward the side of a house. And that caused a lot of problems for our citizens, and then we have to pay all the damages. But just to let y'all know, the trucks are getting bigger, and that's why we have a concern sometimes with low-hanging wire, or even the small overgrown vegetation. It's a safety hazard to our guys. Now, believe me, as a district manager for your district, I don't want to see your alleys closed. We want to service your alleys. We want to provide the proper service for you guys and recycling. And what I see tonight, I mean, I'm very surprised at the presentation you all have here. I mean, y'all are really interested in helping us out, and we want to help you guys also, but I just want to thank you for showing up and showing concern with us. And we just want to, as a district manager, we just want to do the best we can for y'all. You know, Al and Brian, they do the best they can. Brian is bombarded with all the alleys. He's in charge of all the alleys in our district. We have 3 other supervisors and they don't have that. He has them all. And he's the ones that know which ones are closed or not closed. I understand that, you know, we wanted to have a meeting tonight, and I said, well, let me go with y'all, just to be there with y'all and you know, show support. And like I said, Brian and Al are the ones that are really the contact, and they're the guys that are gonna answer all your questions, and we're gonna help you out as much as we can.
I have one other question. The alley does belong to the city, and I know I trim mine, and I've actually trimmed the entire alley many times. A lot of people don't trim it, and it does belong to the city, and why doesn't the city keep the alley clean?
Whatever protrudes into the city, whatever goes into the alley, and it's in your side of the property, is the citizen's responsibility. Now, can we?
There's lots of bushes growing on the side.
Can we cut them? We might be able to cut them, but guess what? Then the citizen will come back and want us to buy them a whole new tree, and you cut the wrong tree, and you should not have cut it, and then we have to pay for all these trees. This happened before.
Well, I've cleaned this alley many times. That's really not the issue. The issue is there's a border between the alley, where the road is and the fence is, and there are trees growing up in that area, and that is really what I'm trimming most of the time. It rarely has to do with issues of something that's going out of the yard into the alley.
And if I
But
could,
that's still.
it's for you in our city code, it is the responsibility of a budding property owner to care for the alley from your property line, that'd be your fence line, to the middle of the alley. And then from the other side, from your neighbors from across the way to the middle of the alley.
If I'm not mistaken, that's because technically the property line's right down the middle of the alley, and the alley itself is an easement.
Correct.
So it's
Yes,
property
easement or
owner's
right
property.
of way.
But the responsibility comes from the easement that the city has down that 15 feet.
That's right, yeah, 15 feet, so 15 feet high and 14 feet wide for your most typical
Can I
alley.
intervene real quick? I thought we was going to have this question and answer series.
Yes.
These gentlemen got up and gave her a little.
Sure, they're gonna give theirs too, and so maybe we should move on to them speaking. All right, but I, also in here, I did include our codes in regards to the collection of alleys that does specify the responsibilities and the, kind of the terms of the closures, when closures take place. Okay, so, and if anyone else has questions, I'm gonna be staying for the whole time, so if anyone has a question for me, they can ask.
But, so, just to clarify, if we have a question regarding the structure of the alley, the paving, resurfacing, holes in the roadway, or I have a neighbor who couldn't come today, when they made the pads for the trash can, they poured this concrete in front of one of her doors that opens out, and so she can no longer open her door.
Yay.
And the idea was to be able to have both doors open so that a truck could come in to the back there. Now she can't do that. And so her question was, can that be fixed? And who does she need to contact about that? It just needs to be moved down a little bit and she doesn't care whether she has a pad or not, but she needs to be able to bring in a truck occasionally. So
We could deliver that if you want to give me her
yes, I
address.
can give you but we should direct those types of things to you?
For,
or to-
depending, it would kind of, it's a kind of an both situation. With TCI, I will contact with TCI because transportation capital improvements, they're the ones that perform the maintenance in the alley. Contract, and those pads were done via contractor.
Yeah.
So we would have to contact them to make sure that we have that moved, can move over that appropriately.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a seat, okay?
If somebody wants to see what an alley looks like, tell them to come by 148 Chevy Chase and look at it.
All right. A good alley or a bad alley? Because you said just alley.
Yeah, just like some-
A bad alley?
It's your alley.
When I cut the grass and everything, I cut all the way to the middle of the alley and everything, because that's what the city of San Antonio required you to do. And they said if you don't do it, they'll come and clean it up. And if you don't pay them, they'll put a lien on your house until you pay them. Now, how much more clear can you make that than what it is? If you're going 45 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, they're gonna give you a ticket.
That's right.
It's the same thing, I mean, what,
Yeah,
that's not hard to understand if you went to school.
that's right. Part of the
So
Thank you.
if you're cutting your grass, another 5 minutes, it ain't gonna take that long to cut the alley. And if you don't have nothing back there, you don't have to worry about it. They said, how do you keep it so clean? Don't put nothing back there.
Yeah, a little roundup. A little
I still
roundup.
have grass back there and stuff like that, but
That's what I
You know what Roundup is, right?
I'm still waiting for y'all to do it. I've been waiting 2.5 years.
Really? Watered down Agent Orange.
Chevy Chase.
Pardon?
Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
And Bryn Mawr. All right. Great. Well, that's coming up.
Go by there and take some pictures.
Let me see that. I want to see that.
Hi, good evening, folks. I'm Alex Steele. Like I said, I'm the assistant district manager for the service center area. We're basically here to field questions. In front of you, everything that got placed on the table is some pictures of some overgrown vegetation and something that would stop the service in your alley. If you flip over, you'll have the municipal code along with a couple of other pictures. On a separate sheet of paper are the closed alleys in your area, whether it be for vegetation or alley improvement or surface repair. We can discuss on this as we go. I think it's on page 2 or page 3 of the whole thing. You'll have what alleys should look like, nice and clear. And at the back end is the debris and other stuff that we don't want in the alley. There's any instructions. That's something just to look at as we go. Questions? I know we had a couple.
Yes.
I know we had a couple.
Yes.
We saw name in the back with debris. Yes, ma'am.
That's concrete.
It says that the Larchmont Irvington alley is closed for utility repair, surface repair, and overgrown vegetation.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, back around Good Friday, I got the notice saying that I need to clear out my alley.
He said there
I
was
talked to somebody and
That's our house right here.
They said it would be about a week or so.
That's the little Western Creek.
Here we are.
Or no, it's not.
And now they're putting in gas lines, and so my question is, what does utility repair mean, what does surface repair mean?
Okay, utility repair is gonna be having to do with your sewer, which is saws, or CPS, which happen to be the gas lines that are running in the alley. Surface repair is exactly what surface repair. We're gonna dig up everything. We're gonna throw a base material down. I think it's 1.5 inch base material, and then they're gonna come back in and asphalt the alley. We won't be using concrete anymore. So those of you that have concrete alleys, you got the last of the concrete alleys. From here on out, we're gonna be using asphalt.
It's hot.
And we'll be resealing those very frequently. The guys from TCI aren't here to answer those specific questions, to why we're using those two different materials. But I do know that from here on out, we're using nothing but asphalt
No, it's
to
for-
resurface the alleys.
We had to repair.
No, now the time frame, it all depends on the weather and on the utilities. So if CPS stalls, they're each gonna take their turn. And if they take some 2-3 weeks to do their work, and then
Months, years.
Sometimes it does take months. Because projects do get pushed back, something comes up that's hotter, a hotter item for them, so projects do get pushed back a lot.
And so what do we do for someone who is physically incapable of taking their bin out to the street?
Now, we can provide a walk-up service for people that can't take their breathing containers out to the front. We can help them move it out to the front for curb service, and all they have to do is place it somewhere where the operator can see the container, where we can go retrieve the can, take it to the truck, service the container, and then replace it where we picked it up from. We do have that option.
And how does one set that up?
All you have to do is call 311 and ask for a walk-up service, disability assistance or walk-up service, and we'll gladly provide that for you.
Is that also provided for the
For the group, as long as you are on our walk-up service list, it's going to be provided for all the containers.
For all containers.
For all containers, yes, ma'am. Young lady, hold on, Ms. Brown.
I know that you guys are taking that back, or getting ready to pave back there between Larchmont and Irvington, and my concern is that the grade back there needs to be fixed, so is that something that's addressed?
We have engineers that go out, and like I said, this is TCI questions. I'm not an engineer, I don't work for TCI, I'm solid waste side, but I do know that they have engineers while they're working in there, working on the grade to make sure when the rains do come, that you don't get all the water into your house, because we've had it happen before. So
I think I actually spoke with you, Jenny Hyman, and I think I actually spoke with you, and I think you came out and took a look at the back and saw how all
the
of
water
that-
was coming into your house
Yes.
through the driveway, I believe, right? 'Cause
The
you're-
alleyway,
Yeah.
well, and through part of the driveway
Yes.
as well, through
I
the
think I
front and
remember.
the back, so there was a big pool of water
Yes,
on
ma'am.
both my side and my neighbor's side, so.
Yeah, and that's something that they'll work on as they're regrading and reconstructing the alley.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
Ms. Brown.
Between Wellesley and Meadow Lane, this last one on the list here, closed because of surface repair. Last time anybody did anything on surface repair was a couple of years ago in connection with the storm drain coming out of that 1111 Austin Highway back in the alley.
Mhm.
There may have been some sort of sewer line repair and dig out.
Oh, yes, that's the one that's abutting the new apartments that are over here.
Yeah,
off
there's
Austin
nothing wrong
Highway.
with the pavement in that alley.
Mhm.
I mean, there hadn't been anything wrong with it for a couple of years.
What happened was that when they built the apartments back there,
Yeah.
when connecting into the sewer lines, the water lines and all
Yeah.
that, they did a poor job of fixing those areas. So if you go back there, you drive through there, you can see the trenches where they're bad dips now. And with the weight of our trucks, if we were to start going in there, it would actually make the ground collapse even worse, which would make the conditions worse in the alley.
When is that scheduled to be fixed?
We have to get with the right-of-way department to see who's gonna be responsible for fixing that. Because if it was not, because if a contractor cut into it, if they can't cut
That was
into
a
that.
couple of years ago.
Well, I think that was pretty recent, actually. I don't think it was that.
Now, 111's been there for a while.
It's been open for a while, so that plumbing work was done
And-
at the beginning of the process
And,
to rough it in.
yeah, and, you know, if that's an argument between 1111 and the city, I don't want to wait another 2 years for my alley service for that to get resolved. Yeah. What do you think?
So we're looking at FY 2016 for us, starts in October. So off the AMP list, Ms. Coleman just gave us information that it got moved up from 2017 to 2016. So we'll start seeing some kind of work done maybe October, from October through October of 2016. So we should see some.
Fixing 10 feet of pavement where they put pipes across there takes an extra.
We're not just
year
talking
to-
about 10 feet, we're talking the whole alley from entrance to exit. When we go in there, they go in there to repair the whole thing.
Yeah, but the whole thing doesn't need anything.
That's, That's the way it is.
I can discuss that, I can find out from TCI what will be the exact point there, but that's for TCI to do
I
maintenance.
mean, I know where the pipe's going across, there's about 10 feet of pavement.
There's also some problems towards the exit of the alley, towards the silo exit entrance. where I
Well,
was-
there used to be, but at one time, that was dug out because somebody was gonna concrete that as a sluice for the storm drain coming off their parking lot, and they thought better of it, and now it's asphalted, it's done.
Well, I can definitely find that out with TCI, what will be the maintenance part there, to see what the service is, because that's gonna be, if it's surface maintenance that needs to take place, that will be a TCI question, and I can find that out.
I'm just, I've walked that whole alley.
Yeah, what
And
it's
I don't see the problem.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Number one, the 14 to 15 foot rule, 14, 15, 15, 14, whatever it is. So basically that means it's wall to wall and up to the first wire on, but my understanding is any trees that go up into the wiring, that's the problem of CPS, to take care of those trees that go up into the wires. They don't want us up into those wires cutting stuff because of damage to the wires and the public safety, that they might, someone could get injured, but if they get up into the wires. Number two, this politically correct stuff to put the notice on everybody's door is a joke.
Yep.
Everybody goes, well, let me see. Well, I don't know, mine looks good. I don't know. Tag the ones that are breaking the rules, period. Tag the ones that are breaking the rules. Say, you need to clean up your alley or else everybody's going to lose their service. Don't give it to 40 people up and down the alley and everybody goes, I think I'm all right. Or, no, mine's good. Or, well, that tree's not mine. It's my neighbor's yard, even though it's growing over my yard, up in the wires, all the way in the alley. It's not my tree, so I can't cut it. Tag the ones who are responsible for causing the issues, not everybody up and down being politically correct, trying not to hurt anybody's feelings.
As a courtesy, the first time we drop off a notice, we drop it off to everybody. Everybody up in the alley.
Y'all just closed my alley, and y'all did the same thing with the red tag.
My turn.
And y'all did not tell the person. I went to that person and said, because the person closed the alley, I said, who is it? And they said, it's that house right there. I said, thank you. I went, clean your alley. You're causing us to lose your service. They didn't tell that person. I went and told that person.
Well, just like I said, the first time we drop off letters, we drop off letters to everybody in the alley. Now, we give them a week, as it states on our papers, we give them a week to clean it up. Week goes by, sometimes we give them 2 weeks, just in case maybe they didn't have a free weekend. So when the second week comes through, we go check the alley again. When we check the alley again, only the houses that are in violation still get the second tag to say, hey, we need your help to clean this up.
I got a red tag. My alley's clean.
I'm sorry, that's not the way that works.
My alley's clean. My house is clean. My house is clean. And I got a
It does not
red
work in
tag.
this neighborhood that way. I have stopped a crew the other day, or a month ago, truckload of guys, 4 guys and a supervisor, driving a big, crew cab city vehicle. And my other problem with this is, I know you guys are from solid waste and stuff like this. This was code compliance, city of San Antonio. Who has jurisdiction? Who enforces this rule?
Y'all turn it over to them and they take care of it?
After our second tag, the violators, any violators that there's no change, we send it over to code enforcement.
Okay.
Code enforcement comes in and.
So
they
once
either take
again,
it
the
or-
guy that handed me the red tag and put it in my hand, and I said, is there a problem with my house behind here? He goes, no. I said, what about the ligustrum tree? That's not mine, it's my neighbor's. I can't touch it. That tree's fine. I said, who's the problem? He said, it's the yellow house right there, 2 houses down.
And I can
I
tell
said,
you
then
right now,
why is everybody getting the tag? And what I'm saying, if they'd have told that person to begin with that they were the problem, they would have corrected it.
I agree.
But then again, they thought, I think I'm okay. I don't know. Because,
I understand
just come out and tell them.
But if you're receiving a card, something similar to this, that's not us. That's not solid waste delivering it. Right now, we deliver a letter. We deliver a letter that we have to find a way to either put it on your door or give it to you in hand to tell you that, hey, you need to trim. We're giving you this much time to trim. So if you got a door hanger to close the alley, a red door hanger is ours. That's because we've already exhausted everything possible that we could do. Go, make that knock, make the contact, and we've already gave it to code enforcement.
Well, the people, when I talked to them, they said, well, we didn't know.
And that's code, once we make our first initial
But they
visit.
said, we didn't know. and one of them, the lady doesn't work. She's there all day. So it's not like, well, no one was home to give them that letter. You're just saying, hey, you're the one that's the problem.
Because the only one that we have walked the alleys is Brian. Brian and maybe one other gentleman. So if you saw a vehicle with 4 or more, that's not us. That's not gonna be the solid.
Comment, please?
Yes, sir?
Richard, you on that?
Yeah, huh?
I'm on Chevy Chase, 100 block of Chevy Chase. And there's a lot of rental houses on Chevy Chase. And these people, when they get that delivered, blah, 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 then code compliance comes out, but they're not the owners. The owners are in Houston or Dallas or in some cases in New Orleans. And they don't receive that in an amount of time, proper time. And they close the alley because they cannot contact that person in Houston, Dallas.
And as it states in the code, it's either the owner, the tenant, or the occupant of the home.
Well, the
Is
tenant
responsible for the alley.
That's it, but they don't think they're responsible for that because they are not the homeowner. That's what they're paying their rent for, is to have all this done. I've asked several people in that area, and thank you so much for coming out and taking care of my alley here for the last couple of days, but somebody's come in and messed it up. But anyway, they just don't hear it, and that makes it hard on us.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but these renters are killing me.
We have that problem a lot. And that's where the gentleman says is right. Hey, when we post notices, they're calling us and the broadcasters usually call and say, hey, what do we have to do to get the alley open? You got maybe 3 or 4 houses that aren't cleaned up. You got that one limb that's coming over across, we can't get through. Okay, which house is it? We give them the address, and they have to go and knock on the door.
You read the address, I go to it.
And that's what the block captains do. For the most part, when Brian gets the call, and if it's a block captain, say, hey, we want our alleys closed, everybody else is clean except for bam, bam, bam. Okay, well, that's where we're having the issue. We've made the contact, we've given them the notices, and they've already gone to the code enforcement.
So if you're going to come out and give that tag to everyone that's on that alley,
Yes. The first,
are you going to be able to put down the address that is the culprit of this thing, or not?
If asked, we can.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm the block captain on my block, and, you know, let me just suggest there might need to be some mechanism other than red tagging everybody on the block to alert THNA, the Neighborhood Association, that we might want to get somebody straightened out on the block. But, you know, if you red tag everybody on my block, I'm the block captain, I see that, I don't know where the problem is. I can go walk the block and make my best guess, but I don't know where you think the problem is.
And we just recently started working with Monte Vista HOA,
Yeah.
and they gave us a contact person. So when this does happen, we can contact them, and he
Give
goes
an
out there
address?
and, excuse me?
Give them an address?
We go, we talk to him, and he's the block captain for all of Monte Vista. He goes and he takes care of it. We can do that with you guys. As long as we have a contact where we can go and say, hey, we need your help.
Well,
Because-
that, something like that might be an alternative to red tagging the whole block, or getting, as Mark was pointing out, getting code compliance involved and wholesale notices to people. If we can get code compliance to back us up with some reluctant neighbors.
Citations.
With citations.
And that's what's supposed to be
Fine.
happening.
Go to the individual, not the group.
Yes.
Right.
And I don't want to volunteer other people in the association, but I'm just asking the question, if that sort of point of contact could kind of zero in on the problem quicker and get the situation resolved.
Well, let me tell you, it is working at that homeowner association.
In Monte Vista?
It's working. Since this gentleman started working with us, he was an ex-councilman.
Yes.
Labatt.
Oh.
And we call him, and he'll go right away, and he'll go to that person and say, hey, we're getting ready to close your alley, because you're the one that's not following the rules or whatever, and then they'll do it right away. Or if they can't, he tries to provide somebody that can help.
Well, we've done that before as an association.
So, but we can work with you that
We've done
way.
it.
We gotta just have to contact first.
We can work.
One other thing, okay, so my alley's been closed for 2 weeks. What's the procedure to get it reinstated?
2 weeks, which one are you in?
Breeze, Harmon, 300 block,
Trees Farm.
between Sidell and Van Diver?
Which one is it? So, yes, That one I did check out, I believe on Tuesday. That one, and I guess if you talk to somebody, you probably talk to me, but it's on the,
It was Yellow House was the problem.
right, it's a house.
We'll just leave it that way.
Not saddle end, but the other end, there is a house with some very major overhanging brush that's hanging really low. So basically, if the truck passes through it, it's gonna basically hit all windshield, you know, and that's really the biggest concern for the safety of basically our equipment and our personnel. Because if my crew's driving, my driver's driving through there, with all that brush hanging as low as it is, it basically binds him to see where he should.
So it has not been corrected yet?
No, it has not.
And was that towards the top of the block by Side L?
No, the opposite, and Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase.
Yes, because everything because I checked the alley,
So-
from Sido working all the way toward almost like the last maybe 3 houses.
The yellow house.
Yeah, from over there, everything's good going down.
Well, it's time to name and shame then. They're getting posted on the website tonight.
But yes, I did drop another notice. Like I said, pretty much the next step would be to report it in the code.
So is code compliance going to go out there and fine them then?
Yes, we're gonna have to, basically, we're gonna have to give it the code, and we don't.
Because I don't want to suffer because of somebody else. And they have no excuse. They're not elderly, they're not handicapped, they're not disabled, they're not away from home all the time. There's no excuse for it not to be done.
This gentleman over here, and then that gentleman.
One that's closed between Chevy Chase and Bryn Mawr from Mount Calvary to Wellesley. I think I've been here about 3 years and there's never been any alley pickup. Is there any way to find out, I mean, all the things are listed, the utility repair, surface repair, overgrown, but I've never seen any of these tags or anything. Is there any way to find out what needs to be done to try to facilitate alley pickup?
Don't run the risk of my truck recording. If you get up, just don't trip on it.
Sir, we can check on that to see when it's going to be placed on the A&P list. That's our alley improvement list. Because I believe that's the one that was half done that you said?
Right.
Was half done, and they got to a point where the utilities had to go back in there, and before they just tore everything up that they just worked on, when they did the utility repairs. I can check to see when that's going to be placed on the A&P list. If we can get your contact information, I can get that information to you.
Wait, Mark, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I needed to ask a question. I live on Devonshire and share the alley with Irvington, 100 block. It's closed for overgrown vegetation. I have personally, I mean, several people here have done this before, but cleaned that whole alley from one end to the other to code. You come back a year later and it's all overgrown. You tell the people that, you've got to keep it, they don't keep it.
Yes.
I mean, we're fighting an uphill battle here.
Yes, sir.
And then code compliance comes in the other day. I had a guy come out from the district, came out, I drove him around several of the alleys. Oh, they're all fine. And I'm going like, everything's hitting my truck, everything is in the alley, these trees are growing in the alley, there's dump over here where somebody just throws their garbage over the fence, not even in a bag. And, it's like, how is that in compliance? Well, we don't have any mechanism to prosecute this. I said, BS. There are all kinds of ordinances and things. Why aren't you doing something with it? Well, they don't want to get tied up in municipal court. I said, I'm tired of being the guy that keeps mine. Mine's a nuclear zone. There's nothing outside my fence, between the fence and the alley, and my neighbor either, because we work together to keep those two alleys, keep that alley clean.
Yes, sir.
And yet, right next to me, and all the way up the alley, is just a jungle.
A jungle, yes.
And what do you do with that? The guy next to me, I've told him a dozen times, clean your alley, do something about this.
And that's what makes it difficult, when people don't want to help, or
What
people
makes
don't
it
want to be part of the alley.
No, what makes it difficult is that there's no enforcement, and they know there's not. My neighbor's been cited half a dozen times for the way his yard looks. He's got 3-foot weeds in his yard.
And that's the code enforcement, that's the code enforcement part, because
They don't do it. That's why I'm asking, who has
unfortunately,
jurisdiction?
that's true.
So they got a bunch of overpaid people sitting around collecting a paycheck doing nothing.
Well, I don't say that. I just say that
I do.
there's got to be some mechanism that gets something done besides us having to go up to our neighbors and say, clean up your alley,
Or do it for them.
And that's
or
something.
do it for them.
You know, hearing that feedback is important for our office, for the councilman to hear. If we're not getting the proper enforcement from our officers,
You're not.
okay.
Code
that's-
Period.
compliance is backing us up. I think that's the problem.
Maybe we can have somebody from code enforcement
Right,
here. and
right.
TCI.
I thought
We
there
can
would
get
be,
somebody-
frankly, because I would
They
have
couldn't
just
come.
been in the middle of that
But we're
guy.
gonna try to get code enforcement, code
Code
code compliance
compliance.
for the September annual meeting. The other thing is that, and I've talked to some of you about a Terrell Heights Neighborhood Association alley maintenance working committee, which I was gonna talk at the end here about that. Because as a group, we have a greater voice than if we're individuals making calls. The other thing that I am concerned about is that I don't want you or anyone else to be in a combatant position with your neighbors. I would
Right.
rather you be able to go to code compliance
Doesn't bother
or
me.
go to someone on the neighborhood association board or this alley maintenance committee who then can intervene. You don't want to, get bad blood between you and your neighbor for whatever reason. If they are being lazy, well, then we need to find a way to make it hurt them in their pocketbook. If it means somebody comes out and does it for them and submits the bill, fine. But there's legalities about that, and I don't know whether that would end up in a lawsuit. But if code compliance is there to cite them, give them a reasonable amount of time to take care of the problem, then they need to come back and fine them.
They don't.
Then we need, as
Period.
a group, we need to try to work with them and say, we're not going to put up with that. We're paying taxes here to be able to have trash pickup in the alleys, and we want it to be able to do that.
You know what the guy told me? He said, that's their choice. They can do what they want to. And I
Not
said,
according to this.
I know, but
not
I'm
according
saying
to
that's
this.
what he tells me, that's their choice. And I said, okay, so his choice surpasses my choice. I want the alley clean, I want his alley clean, but he's making the choice for me that I can't get an open alley. I've got the best alley probably in the neighborhood. It's total concrete, it's got curbs,
Yeah, it's
both
nice.
ends of it. It's a beautiful alley. It looks like crap right now. I had to pull a tree branch that big around out of the alley driving over here because I drove up the alley just to get a good glimpse of what I'm dealing with every day. And there's this huge damn limb laying in the alley. I get out and move it out of the way. And again, I'm constantly hit by brush overhead and sideways. And I drive a medium-sized pickup truck. And it can't get through there. So no wonder. The other thing I want to say is I sat in my backyard one day, I have a shop out in back, and I watched a city vehicle, trash truck, try to pull in my alley off of Greenwich between Devonshire and Irvington. They could not maneuver the truck into that alley because the curbs at my property is this high. And they could not maneuver a truck in there because they made it too narrow. Now, who the genius was that designed that without knowing, what they were going to do, I'm sorry, but they've closed that alley. It's been closed over a year.
And I know one of the holdups, I know that.
I've got 3 years
I put out
on
letters
mine.
to get the trimming done, and the trimming was going well, but then I know that we had utility wires at the Greenwich end that was hanging low.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest concern, and unfortunately, not having control over the utility companies and waiting for their response was one of the biggest hindrances that I've been experiencing. And not just your alley, but the one also across from me on the other side of Breeze.
What?
I was having that same issue, because I know they've been trying to get their alley open and low wires.
Yeah, there's a telephone pole there that
Right.
has a bunch of dead stuff on it and, come out and take the telephone pole out, clear it for the truck. But even at that, I think the curbs are the problem because they maneuvered for 10 or 15 minutes trying to get a truck into that entrance and never made it. And I'm standing right there watching them saying, this is ridiculous. And that's not you guys' fault. That's the engineer that designed it.
Code compliance is that is as bad as Mark says it is, and that was going to be one of my questions here. That really is a councilman's issue at that
Yes.
point, because there's nobody else around in this room who can do anything about it.
Absolutely.
Right.
That needs to be a discussion I have directly. And I speak with the manager over the code officers, and he's gonna get a call tomorrow morning, I can tell you that, just from the start. The councilman will hear about it as well. We don't like to hear that. Code enforcement is there to enforce our codes, and if you're getting that feedback,
that's not a very good thing to hear for me.
No,
They're not willing to go to municipal court, that just means it's
That's
never
part of
gonna
their,
happen.
it's part of their job, and we actually tried to strengthen the teeth of code enforcement not too long ago by hiring an additional municipal court judge for that very purpose of dealing with these citations and trying to get them through so we can have more compliance. So
That's
to hear that
commendable.
is not a good thing if that's not, our purpose that we did that for is not happening through our code officers.
Yeah, well, it's not, because this guy was just, he was very nice, he was very understanding, but he was just like, there's nothing we can do. We can't force these people to do anything. And I'm going like, this is ridiculous.
What about bringing a group suit against somebody for infringing upon your?
That's why I'm here tonight. I'm wanting to know what we can do.
Well,
Mr. Stan had a question here.
nuisances.
I did.
Yes.
What about a nuisance abatement yard sign that you can physically put in somebody's yard? That is a city ordinance that says you need to clean up your SHIT.
Scarlet letter works good.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, our
it's-
old neighborhood, they did that.
yeah, it
Within
works
2
really
days,
well.
people were out there cleaning.
We moved here recently from Oklahoma City, and we found that was really,
And
it
that's
solved
something
a lot of problems.
that's
with
something
people.
the HOA would have to do, because we couldn't put a sign like that. We can deliver the letters
We have a
to the
website.
house, we can give it to the homeowner.
Right, the letter,
We have a
because they can
website.
just move that inside. Nobody
Exactly.
knows
Name and
who
shame.
is the problem, but if you have an actual city ordinance yard sign,
We,
nuisance abatement, that would probably.
Code compliance does do that when things become super overgrown. We'll post things to front doors and things like that, but for alleys, we basically I think they'd only go and put it in the alley.
Yeah.
They work really well, so it's something
Yeah.
that
That's a great idea. I like
And
that.
they couldn't have it removed until they paid their fine and had the alley.
Right.
See, the problem we have is it's not a homeowners association here.
Yeah.
It's a volunteer.
Neighborhood association.
association, totally volunteer. Dues we try to collect dues, but that's not always the case. But at the same time, it has no teeth. We have no teeth as a neighborhood association to fine or shame anybody except just total gall.
We talked about, and we did send notices, when we had an alley sweep one year, and we got tools from the tool shed, we made arrangements with the city for chippers, we had everything. And we went down the alleys, our block captains went down the alleys and notified which areas were the most difficult, where the houses were the offenders. And we had groups of people go and clean it up. We had a notice saying that we did this and that they were going to be fined, what was it, $20, something like that. It still didn't do any good. They just didn't care. Now, on my block, we had a group of renters who would literally take their trash from the back porch, from the back of their house, and lob it over their fence and see whether they make it in the trash can or not. No lids, nothing. And they said, well, we're just renters, we don't have to do this. We had numerous conversations with them. Finally, I had to find out who the owner of the house was and get a lawyer friend to write a legalese type letter and recommending that they put it in their contract for their rent, their tenants, and if it wasn't cleaned up and if that activity didn't cease, that we were going to try to come after them somehow. Luckily, he did put it in his lease, and he evicted the people. He came out and saw pictures, he caught them in the act of doing it, and they were gone. Luckily, we have responsible tenants in there now, and it is in the lease, because they told me so, and they are keeping their...
That's good.
But that's action that, I had to take. And I was block captain at the time, and that's what we did, because we were getting notices. And everyone else was ticked off. But that's something that we can do as if we have an alley maintenance type committee, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Kathy, you have a question?
Ms. Kathy?
Yeah, I wasn't clear, talking about the alley that Mark was talking about, is that low-hanging wire fixed yet? Because on this sheet, it just says that it's overgrown vegetation on that alley, but you were talking about a low-hanging wire on the...
Which alley was speaking?
Devonshire and Irvington, 100 block.
It has finally been raised, yes.
So it's just...
It's just the vegetation now. It's just the vegetation, because...
Okay,
Oh,
and
sorry.
I have one other thing,
Okay.
just real quick,
Yes, ma'am.
for whoever this applies to. Often the garbage bin after they dump the ground in, they just put it wherever, and it's frequently in front of my driveway, so that if I'm coming in or going out, I have to get out and move it before I can go to my business. This has happened numerous times.
That's something we can fix with
I
Brian.
think we can take care of that right
Cut it
away. They're
away
supposed
from
to they're supposed to place it down to wherever they refuse to contain it.
The other thing that you can do is you can call 311, you can put a complaint for cart placement, we'll submit a work order in. I'm the manager of 311.
Oh, all right. Oh, now you're in trouble. The mask comes off.
So you would go ahead, it's easier if you come through us to do the cart placement because we submit the work order and it gets directly sent over to where it needs to go, as to whatever crew is gonna come and do that. So they'll go ahead and do it. So, and how we're gonna know what the history is, every time that happens to you, you call us, and then if we start to see that there's a history, because I can pull up the case histories and we can tell, you know, we work with a customer service specialist that Solid Waste has. We'll say, for example, this address in the past month, you know, there's been 4 complaints for cart placement. So they use that and then they address that directly with the superintendent and the crew and the driver, whomever's responsible for that route, and then it gets done, taken care of that way. Thank you.
Can I ask one second?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I live at 119 Irvington, and I've been there for about 22 years. And for at least, I'd say, maybe 10 times, I had problems with a water meter in the alley. And every time the trucks would run over it, you know, I would actually, my husband and I would spend thousands of dollars because it was on our property, the piping or whatever it was. They would say, saws would come and say, well, it's on your property, sorry, you know. And I didn't know what to do about it. So finally, I just wanted to thank Brian because he's the one who finally took care of the situation. I somehow got a hold of you, and you made some calls that very day, and the problem was solved. Saws actually came out, and they moved that meter. It was in the middle of the alley, my water meter, and they moved it over. We have not had any problems, but that's when Irvington was initially, the alley was closed. It was not closed for vegetation or any of that. It was closed because of my water meter. There was water that went all the way down Greenwich and